time, I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Education Committee meetings to order. Roll call vote. Dean Edwards.
Here.
Zach Gray. Dr. Chavis.
Here.
Ricky Jenkins.
Here.
Linwood Weeks.
Here.
Devon Whitfield. Blank Dunn.
Yes, sir.
Chris Visit.
Here.
Dr. Washington.
Here.
The first committee meeting is Ricky Jenkins.
I'd like to call the Administrative Services Operation Committee meeting to order. Roll call. Mr. Gray. Ms. Chavis.
Here.
Mr. Lamb.
Here.
Mr. Whitfield. And I'm here. Yeah, 5 good. 3 out of 5 good. Can I get approval of the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ms. Morris. Contract with the Boys and Girls Club.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair Lamb, board members, Dr. Ellis. As we enter year 2 of our 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant for 4 of our elementary schools, we bring before you a request to approve the contract with the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Tar River region. This contract will support the implementation of our 21st Century after school and summer program for the 25-26 school year. And on behalf of Superintendent Ellis, we hereby request approval of this contract.
Motion to approve the contract.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Miller. Tell us about the new Southern Nash Middle School, because I saw in the paper where Dr. Ellis told them it was gonna be a phenomenal facility. And I want to make sure we make it a phenomenal facility for the southern part of the county, because we did get us a nice field house, so up here in the northern part. So we want a nice middle school down there.
No pressure at all.
None.
No pressure at all. Okay, good evening. This is going to be sent to you for approval. This is a 44-page document with our architect. And if you will take a moment and start with the amount and the scope of this has changed since we did Red Oak Elementary, but overall it is exactly like our contract when we built the Red Oak Elementary. So if you will start with page 3, you'll see the project parameters, and that is very detailed as to what we have already discussed. The next thing I want to highlight is on page 39, which is the design, construction, and equipment budget. All is detailed there in Exhibit A. And then finally, in the end, which I know this was uploaded, you've already had a chance to take a look at it, but the very final one on page 41 is Exhibit C, the management plan, and we are on the same completion target that we even discussed at our last board meeting when I shared with you some of the upcoming things for this coming year. The ad hoc committee will start meeting in September, and we have got some preliminary plans that we are working with the administration, Southern Nash Middle School, and some of our other elected individuals to just make sure we're meeting all the needs academically and all other square footage and various other things, and staying on budget. So we do have some draft stuff we can share with the committee, but we're not at that point just yet because we make a lot of revisions as we go.
See, this is an action item carried to the full board. Do I have a motion to carry this to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll do some reading for you next Thursday, I guess.
Ms. Muller.
Yes, sir. It's very similar, as I said, to Red Oak Elementary, exactly like our plan as we approach the Red Oak Elementary building.
All right,
Thank you.
We look forward to it. All right. Student fees, Dr. Ellis is for
So
information.
this is for information only, but it probably goes back to a conversation we had. It's been, last board meeting about student fees and parking lot fees. So Mr. Weber gave me some, kind of like some examples of what other districts do, and I'm gonna pass this out to the board. I told the principals at our principal meeting that I'm gonna start getting some information from them on. I mean, it's got things like parking, dances, yearbook, technology, public records, after school care. So I'm just gonna hand out these examples, hopefully possibly in October at the committee meeting. I'll get you kind of draft of what it might look like. And then hopefully we can move forward. The only issue is I know in our policy, fees are approved by the board, but the parking lot fee seems to be for me. I don't know how that happened, but we're just gonna put everything on this one anyway. And then hopefully in October, we can probably discuss. I'm gonna just pass these out for information. Like I said, I'll try to get something done. October committee, we can go. Any questions? Like I said, that was just for information so we can start the ball moving.
Anybody got any questions for? Anybody got any questions for Dr. Ellis? I think what we need to just make sure we do is keep everything consistent throughout the district. Other than that, that's all we had. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Policy Committee, Mr. Week.
Okay, we need a roll call for policy committee. Mr. Dunn,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gray.
Here.
Dr. Washington,
Here.
Mr. Edwards.
Here.
I get a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Edwards and a second from Mr. Dunn.
Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray, I'm sorry, I heard both sides. So, any discussion? Motion carries. All right. We have a number of policies that we need to look at. Mr. Weber, do you want to go over any of these before we?
Right, I'd be happy to. So tonight's policies are part of an NCSBA special summer policy update. You know, they do their spring, their fall. This one is in response to some recently enacted state legislation that required some corresponding policy changes for you and other school boards. There are 13 policies in the update, but you only need to consider 12 of them. 2 are just options. One is a wireless communications policy, which you've already revised to comply with state law. There were 2 different versions of it, so we really only have 12 on our calendar. And just to give some background, because I will be recommending waiving second reading and approving a number of these policies on first reading, I wanted to take a second, if it's okay to explain why. So most of these are time sensitive as a result of some legislation, HB 805, and that required boards to have policies in place at the beginning of the school year addressing 3 subject areas or topics. One is religious objections to their child or to class discussions and activities. The second is a parent's ability to restrict their child's access to certain library books. And then the third is there was language requiring restrictions on sharing sleeping quarters. So that bill was vetoed, but the veto was somewhat recently overridden in late July. And that's why NCSBA kind of scrambled to put some really good timely policy updates together for you and other policy service subscribers. But that's the main driver of what you have before you tonight and why I'll be asking for approval on first reading. And then just separately, there was another bill, SB 600, that required a change in your policies around EpiPens, basically, where, right now EpiPens are allowed, but other forms of delivery like nasal sprays aren't clearly allowed. And there was a bill that required boards again to have policies in place that allow the nasal method of receiving that medication. And that was supposed to be in place at the beginning of the school year. So I'll talk about these in groups just based on the topics and changes required by the legislation. You've got policy 1310-4002, that's parental involvement, policy 3320, school trips, and policy 3620, extracurricular activities and student organizations. All three of those policies were updated to address a new statutory requirement that prohibits students from sharing sleeping quarters with a member of the other biological sex during activities or events authorized by school. And then it lays out just two exceptions. One would be if the member of the opposite sex is a parent, and then the second would just be if there's consent from all of the parents or guardians of all of the students. And the changes are slightly different in each policy, but that's the driving rationale for each of those. With policy 3320 and 3620, I do recommend, I was looking at it again earlier today, I do recommend that we further revise one particular sentence in both of those policies. In 3320, I don't know if we want to get them pulled up on the screen. In section B, the exception for parent permission only refers to parents, where the statute allows parents or legal guardians to grant permission. So I would recommend that in the version that you adopt down there under number 2 in section B, where it says the parents of all students, that we further revise it to say the parents or legal guardians of all students. And that would be my recommendation. The rest of it all matches what the statute says. And then in policy 3620, again in section B3 at the top of the 3rd page, there we go. Maybe that's the 4th page. Same thing here under number 2 there, that the board just further revised this to read the parents or legal guardians of all students, just to match the statutory text. But other than that, I would recommend these as written. If there are no questions on that batch of policies, the next would be policy 3210, parental inspection of and objection to instructional materials. That's also been updated to address some new statutory requirements to provide ongoing public access to the titles of any library books that are available at school through a web-based searchable catalog on the school's website homepage, and to also allow parents to identify any library books that their student is prohibited from borrowing. So that's a new statutory requirement for all school districts. One thing to note here is that the definition of library book is pretty broad. You know, it's not just books that are actually in the central library location in each school, but it's pretty much any material that is not a textbook and used outside of the standard course of study for any greater course, whether it's in a like centralized library or in a classroom. And that language pretty much tracks exactly what the statute says. Next, we have policy 3510. And this was updated to address new statutory requirements that allow students or a student's parent guardian to request that the student be excused from specific classroom discussions, activities, or assigned readings that the student parent or guardian believes would either impose a substantial burden on the student's religious beliefs or invade the student's privacy by calling attention to the student's religion. The statute also requires that if a student is excused, they have to be given an alternative activity or assignment, and that advance notice of activities and assignments be given when practical. And that's what you see here with all of the red lines. The next batch of policies, these are also, tied to statutory requirements, but they're not quite as time sensitive. 4120 domicile or residence requirements was updated to comply with some changes around admissions for students of military families, 5070, 7350 public records retention, release, and disposition, and policy 7820 personnel files were updated to reflect some changes in the scope of what type of salary and compensation information is public in any school district employee personnel file. And had some other updates as well around new requirements to post salaries on a district website. And then policy 6340, transportation service vehicle contracts, and 7100, that was updated to require that your contract transportation providers have criminal history checks before they start providing services to students. So in terms of like the time sensitive nature of these, I would recommend, just because again, there was a very recent legislation that required boards to have policies in place at the beginning of the school year. For some of these, I would recommend waiving second reading and approving on first reading policies 1310, 4002, 3210, 3320, 3510, 3620, 5024, and 6125. Those are tied to requirements in House Bill 805 and Senate Bill 600.
Did you mention, I think in that list, you said 4120. You had a second batch. Is that, did I misunderstand, mishear you?
If I said that, I did not mean to. It should be 1310, 3320, 3620, 3210, and
5024, 6127, 7266.
right,
6125.
6125 and 3510.
My question, I was gonna ask the board this, the committee this first. You mentioned 3320 and 3620 needed some updates that we might need to make before we approve those. Is that what?
You could approve it as a batch. So one option would be to approve that list of policies
No,
with the
no,
additional
no,
revisions.
you wanted to make, you mentioned some changes that needed to be made to guardians also. I
Yes.
think that I made 3320 and 3620.
Yes.
Is that the committee, what's the committee's pleasure on that?
I'm okay with stated
Response.
changes.
Yeah, I'm recommending it with stated changes. And
Could-
that
could
aren't
I-
being reflected
agree.
in the document.
Can I get a motion for that, please?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I made the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a
To-
first and a
and-
second
A motion to what?
to accept the changes as recommended.
To policies
The-
3320
Guardian.
and 3620.
Yeah, 3320 and 3620.
Or just those two? Okay.
Is that, I'm correct? That was the only two you were talking about, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to change the policies to add guardian. Legal guardian.
Or 3320 and 3620.
All right,
And
All
both
in
of
fa-
these, I'm sorry. but
No, go
these-
ahead. I'm sorry.
But these sit for normal.
no, these
30
these
days.
are gonna be, we're gonna waive second reading in the motion on these. All in favor, say aye.
Do we
Aye.
need to do that in the motion?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna make another motion on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's now two motions, which is fine. You can break it up into two.
So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'll make the motion to waive second reading and approve the following policies on first reading. 1310, 402, 3210, 3320, 3510, 3620, 5024, 6127, 7266, and 6125. I have a motion. I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Going back to the library fee.
It is. What we found in other districts, there's a pretty standardized library catalog tool that already exists that has that functionality. So I think the heavier lift that we're seeing is around cataloging classroom materials and how to capture that. But in terms of existing, digital tools with the functionality that allows searches and identification of books, that's something that's in place.
And this is one of the things that, believe it or not, me and the superintendent working on this before is, really kind
cautious about just the title showed up in the policy. And then might help that it would be title and author. Reason being is we found a book, and there's several different books, but with the same title. And it would lead to some confusion if we still pulled the wrong book.
And the way the way I understand these systems work now, it would be searchable by both title and author.
Okay.
So, you know, if a parent knows of an author or a certain book, they would be able to search in that way.
I was just making sure because in policy it just said.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I make the motion to approve the following policies for first read. They will then sit for 30 days before consideration for approval on second read. That's policies 4120, 5070, 7350, 6340, 7100, and 7820. Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That is the last of our things. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Academic services and accountability, Mr. Bishop.
All right, we'll start off with roll call. Myself, I am here. Dr. Washington,
Here.
Franklin Lamb. Here. Blank Dunton. Here. And Zach Gray. We are 100%. We're perfect attendance. I love it. Start with approval of the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. White, field trip.
Two field trips needing approval. They're both CT field trips. One's the FFA convention and the other is Skills USA. Both meet our policy and it would be no cost to our district, and the superintendent seeks your approval.
Move to approve.
Okay, so have a motion. We got a second? Second. A motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Mudd. Bring us some good news, right? Always.
At least recently, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, recently.
Mr. McQueen, if you can pull up that presentation that's linked in there. So I'm just back with an update on what information that we can share at the moment. You see in your packet, there's some information that's available to school system staff that's not available to be shared publicly, but we'll get into that. So just kind of updating where we stand with end of the year proficiencies and school performance grades on the school year for 24-25. And so, as I said, the data is currently still embargoed until approved next week at the State Board of Education on Wednesday. So when the full board meets next Thursday, we should be able to go into a little bit more detail and share publicly some of the results if the board so desires to hear an update then. Just kind of a reminder, no one likes to talk about the D word anymore, but demerger did impact the school populations at a lot of our schools this year. And I just kind of want to make that as a reminder as you're looking at data and trying to compare year over year information. In some situations, you're really not talking about the same student populations, or at least vastly different student populations to some degree. So for example, Edwards Elementary, you can't compare their 23-24 to their 24-25 because it was a middle school and now it's an elementary school. So not even close to the same students. And so as you're looking through some of that information, those are kind of things to keep in mind. Winstead Avenue Elementary was also a K2 school, and now it's a K5 school. And so again, looking at it did have a score and some information in 23-24, but that was mostly reflective of the 3-5 feeder school that it went to, not the actual performance of the students at Winstead Avenue in 23-24. And then, believe it or not, nearly half of our schools were impacted to some degree by student reassignment through the demerger, because as you guys are well aware, some schools were transferred to Edgecombe County, but then that means or meant that we had to kind of reassign some of the students that were left behind, and then you needed to balance those schools out to some degree to make sure that the population is somewhat matched. And so schools that were impacted pretty significantly were Benvenue Elementary, Edwards Elementary, Inglewood Elementary, Nashville Elementary, and Winstead Avenue. At the middle school level, Rocky Mountain Middle School and Nass Central Middle School. And then at the high school, Rocky Mountain High School and Nass Central High School had significant impacts of student reassignments. And then you had your other schools, City High School, Early College High School, Nita, and Tar River, which potentially had impacts depending on their student populations and whether or not students kind of continued at those schools or decided to go to Edgecombe County. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at the information and the data. There is a lot of good news and a lot of good things to kind of celebrate over the past school year. But next year, we won't have to talk about that, hopefully, unless y'all do some reassignment again between now and then, but hopefully not, Mr. McQueen. So this is the link to the proficiency data that was shared earlier. So you guys have access to that to see all of the grades and subjects if you want to. Mr. McQueen, you can go to the next slide. We don't have to pull that up. What I did was on the next several slides highlighted grade levels and subjects across the district that had a double-digit increase in proficiency from 23-24 to 24-25. And there are 3 whole slides with 2 columns on each one. So there are a lot of schools, a lot of subjects, and a lot of places for us to really celebrate increases in proficiency, which Dr. Ellis has strongly pushed with the principals in all of their meetings to really kind of focus on getting kids to grade level and demonstrating that on their test. And so if you look, you'll see elementary schools from the north, south, east, west of the county, all across the board are included in double-digit increases. If you go back to that spreadsheet that you guys have access to, you'll see that there are increases across the board at every school. These are just the double-digit increases, which are uniquely important. Mr. McQueen, go to the next slide. So next slide includes our middle school information. And again, you'll see all of our middle schools there to some degree, other than Red Oak listed as a school with double-digit increases. And then most of our high schools are also included with double-digit increases as we continue to the third slide there, Mr. McQueen. Just another reminder as you're looking through that, 5th grade science, 8th grade science, and biology, those tests were re-normed. It was a new year for a new assessment. And if you followed the State Board of Education, Dr. Howard at that meeting when she kind of presented the new cut scores and the new standards, basically said that they expect scores to be lower in the year that they do those re-normings. And so if you find areas where we've had increases, because we had some in 5th grade science that were double digits, even with the new assessment. And so there are really some strong gains in those areas. But you will see a lack of science subjects, and that's one of the reasons why. Mr. McQueen. So overall, our overall proficiency, that's all grades, all subjects, all assessments, increased by 4.5 percentage points from 43.5% to 48%. Again, as a reminder, with 5th grade science, 8th grade science, and biology essentially becoming more difficult to be proficient in the first year of the assessment, we still were able to increase 4.5 points. But just earlier today, I went to look, it just dawned on me to compare that to how, where we've been in the past. And so the last 10 years of data, which is what I had access to easily, 48% proficiency for all grades and all subjects is the highest that the district has experienced in the last 10 years. The previous high, as you can see there, was in 2016-17 with 43.8%. So really an epic year for the district in terms of student proficiency, the highest we've been in well over a decade for sure. In terms of subgroups, I know that's an important area. People are looking at how, are all groups kind of improving and not just certain groups. 11 of our 12 subgroups that we have data for showed increases in proficiency year over year. Again, with a more difficult science test in 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology included in that. So still having increases in all areas is just about with that more rigorous assessment. And then we've highlighted here on the screen some of the areas with the highest subgroup increases year over year. Growth data, as I've mentioned about the school performance grades, won't be available until next week. We'll be able to share that information publicly. But if you'll go to the next, I think it's on the next slide. So for the board, you have access to the link here in this slide, which takes you to the school performance grade information that has been shared for internal use. And that does have the growth information included in it. So you have a quick glance at that before next week when we'll be able to go into more details and share it publicly about what these increases in proficiency that we talked about look like in terms of how it impacted school performance grades across the district. So overall, a good year in most of our areas and continued momentum going into this school year. Any questions about any of the data presented?
Good.
Thank you for the job you're doing of getting the data out to the principals and central office staff too. You know, I like to see after many years of doom and gloom, I like to see the central office, how they plan a celebration positive.
I think Franklin and I had a conversation yesterday that the good information going to the principals helps them plan. It helps them. So, you know, I don't know if they tell you, but we're here and you're doing a good job with that stuff. So.
Yeah, so just, I mean, again, we're trying to present it to you guys as soon as we get it so that everyone's available, you know, just to be able to see what it is. Because there are really good things happening all across the district. And using the data and putting it out there in front of people is one way to highlight, you know, the successes that people are doing, because our teachers and our students and our administrators work really hard to make sure that they look like they're doing the best, right? And we want to highlight that. So
It takes all the folks to make the wheel round. I just hope we know how to celebrate a little bit.
that's right.
And
Thank you
I
all.
think it's just gonna get better Thursday. What I
That's
hear.
right. Oh,
Public needs to know.
Yeah, we make sure the public knows.
yep. So next week, when we have the full board meeting, we'll be able to share publicly and kind of get all of that information out there, and we can celebrate everybody here on the screens for everybody to see. Just waiting on the State Board of Education to approve it next week on Wednesday. So thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing, and Tim's nicer to me, but the science scores that were renormed, they didn't allow the students to have any type of retesting. So some of the advantages we have with, and when you see, Tim will go over it next Thursday about our retest. If a kid doesn't pass, he can take the test again. We had substantial gains from the first to the second. Well, they didn't allow us to do that with science. And you're gonna see a few schools that 1 point away, 1.5, 2/10 of a point from growth. And I just don't like when they cheat kids like that, because that hurts. We had a great year, see that, but could have had a better year if I think the state could have really found a better way to do this. I'll say it that way.
Was there any rhyme or reason why they decided not to?
I don't know. Mo Green wouldn't answer that question. So we will celebrate Thursday.
Will we be able to see if they would have done the retest and what that score would have been and what the grade would have been?
Tim is very good about putting some prediction scores.
Predict-
We haven't
prediction
allowed him
scores,
to do
that's-
that quite yet, because me and him.
So the state determined what the passing scores were, obviously after the students took the test, right? Like after after they take the test. And so there was no way to know who wasn't proficient to allow them the opportunity to come back to retest, because those results weren't shared with us for science until early August. You know, and so those students were long gone. There is a lot of discussion about making retesting more available to more students. I've not heard an update on that since they had a call with districts and people in the districts to kind of get some feedback on that. But I do think the new leadership at the Department of Public Instruction is looking at expanding the opportunity for students to kind of come back and not make it so much just a 1 day, 1 test, maybe a 2 day, 2 tests opportunity for them to, you know, demonstrate what they learned all school year, because it is for some students, you know, super close to being proficient and kind of having that boost that gives them, and then they had a bad day or a rough morning or something, and so that second opportunity for some kids is a big opportunity. But we do, like I said, I'll share next week when we do school performance grades, we can share some of the information about how big the increase was in some of those subjects after students took the retest, the extra opportunity, so you can kind of see the impact that was having.
It's a what ifs.
Yeah, there are some what ifs, and I do like some projections, but it's really impossible when you don't know what the bar is to project what we could have done. You know, obviously there were significant numbers of students that were kind of on that passing threshold, right, within 1 or 2 points. That if you assume that they passed at the same rate the kids did of the other assessments, you would have seen a, you know, a 3 to 5% increase like we do for the other assessments usually. Easily.
Thanks, sir. No further questions, comments, business? Okay, can we adjourn the Academic Services Committee?
Student support services in operation. Dr.
All right.
Chairman.
Good news.
At this time, I'd like to call the Student Support Services Operation Committee meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call. Dr. Washington. Here. Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Weeks.
Here.
Mr. Edwards.
Here.
And I am here. And may I get a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, at this time, we'll do a transportation update for information only. Mr. Body.
Good evening. Like you said, this is for information only. Next one. So our bus drivers update. So as of now, we have 96 drivers that work AM and PM. Number of drivers that work either AM or PM, we have 16 of them. Total drivers to meet the AM and PM transportation needs is 125. Number of sub drivers that we have is 7. Buses currently without drivers is 2. Last year we had, I think, 16. So we were a whole lot better than we were from last year. Next slide. Okay, teachers assistants. So as of July 25th, the total TAs with license is 45. TAs that drive every day is 20. So out of the 45, we have 20 of them drive every day, AM and a PM routes. We have actually the 3 turned into 6 this week. They hired 3 more TAs. So we have 6 waiting on the class. You want to make a bet on that? So we have available 20 TAs that are getting paid to drive. So we shouldn't have a bus shortage problem, a bus driver shortage problem, right? We have 20 TAs that are in the classroom that can drive at a moment notice.
Question.
Yes.
I think we have some middle school issues where they're short some drivers.
Yes.
Can we pull a TA from another location to fill that gap?
Well, not the policy you put in place, but the suggestions that you put in place for TAs to get their license, it was meant for them to drive their own schools.
Right.
You know, and we do have TAs. I mean, 20 of them, they drive whatever we want them to drive. But the 25, they're like in their class and say, no, I'll drive for this school only.
I mean, you don't know if you don't ask.
Yes. And I went to Red Oak.
We got a shortage of what? Red Oak?
Red Oak, yeah. I went to Red Oak this morning and talked to the secretary and tried to beg her to come drive. And she hasn't said no. So
I mean, it just, if we got somebody that can drive and you got a school that kids are getting there at 9 o'clock every morning,
absolutely.
do something.
We have enough TAs at Red Oak Elementary that are willing to drive for Red Oak Middle. That question been asked.
So there's one TA that's already driving for the missing driver at Red Oak Elementary, and
They're so close together, that would be.
yeah, but their times don't meet up. They have to be in school at 7:30, and middle school don't let in until 8:30. So it'd be a kind of conflict.
Then I would ask this question. Do you have a non-TA driver at Red Oak that could drive or at another school that could drive a Red Oak route, and instead of doing the one where you're good and let a TA take that route?
Yeah, pulling them from elementary.
Well,
Our
if
driver
you've got
from
somebody
elementary.
that's driving AM and PM at, let's say, Nash Central, and you move them to that Red Oak spot and use a TA from that school to fill that spot.
Yes. And that's what we're covering everything. It's just, to get all the students to school on time, you know, that's what we need. I said we have 2 open routes, but they're pretty much covered morning to get the students there. You know, we having drivers, they'll pull an extra run, they'll do 2 elementary runs or whatever makes it happen. Transportation is a department that makes stuff happen. Whatever it takes.
Well, I have to commend you. I think this school year is the first year I only had 1 call. And as the lady was talking to me, so, oh, wait, I see the bus right now. So I said, oh, good, bye. And it was like 4 to 6. So to have 1 call at the beginning of school year is just, that's the first for me in 23 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I did have a parent at Red Oak Middle to make a recommendation or a suggestion. He was aware of a farm, a big operation that already have drivers that are licensed. And they are retirees that might be interested if they were advertised to, or if they could get the information. So I said I would share that with you.
Mhm.
And then another parent recommended, and I wasn't aware of this, and it may not be so, that OIC has some kind of training for licensures. So I don't know. I think they do some driving for consolidated diesel, or, so that's what I heard. So I don't know if these are avenues we could pursue if we're still in a tight spot
Yeah.
that may offer us a little bit of space. But I think you're doing great. I appreciate you. If
you.
nobody else does, I sure do.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I've got a little bit more.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry. We almost got it so good. I'm so glad. Okay. Go ahead.
So the extra opportunities, we did offer this all the way through the whole entire summer. We had 8 to take advantage of the first aid. We had 2 that took advantage of the bus training service online. And then we had 1 person showed interest in the NCCDI training. Next slide. Please. This is the transportation request. So we had over 7,000 students sign up for bus transportation. Number of students that need to be routed. From the open house, we had over 1,000 students. As of now, we have everyone's on a bus. From the first 10-day sheet that we sent out, when I made this slide, we had 69, but it's at 0 again. Out of bounds, we cut the out of bounds down to about 50 out of bounds students. All right. So this is the training that we actually already done for the summertime. We have our in-service meeting every year. It was held on July 29th. It was about a 7-hour training, and you see what trainings we went through: the student health, EC, human resources, benefits, DOT, and NARCAM. The other training was at EC, and both of these trainings were mandatory. And excuse me, but I put the wrong date. Date was on August 5th. I don't know where September 19th come from, but we had a mandatory EC training for all drivers and monitors at that time. Any other questions?
Yeah.
I have one here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You said they yield to you.
Extra opportunity for work. You know, a couple of meetings ago, we had somebody speak up and said they would like to have that. Do we have any of the ones that spoke at that meeting not take any of that training? Have you checked anything?
So we do have, we sent messages out to all the drivers and monitors. And actually outside of my door, we have a scan code where all they have to do is take a picture of it and it carries them right to the extra opportunity on their phone, or we have some laptops in our training room there that they could use if they didn't have it on a phone. But just like you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them to drink. Except for my mandatory trainings, I can make.
I was just wondering, you know, we had quite a few speak tonight. Just want to make sure they took advantage of the opportunity while they had it.
Yeah.
Don't need to ask anymore.
The summer, I guess, training that we did for Covey shot. Did we see did that have any positive effects? Or we got 12, 11 drivers.
On the, which ones? Oh, the CPR?
No, where we had the examiners come in. And instead of doing 3, I think we did 11 drivers.
On the what?
The state examiners that I kind of lined up.
Oh, yeah.
Did that?
Oh, yeah,
We
I'm
see
sorry.
any positive on that?
Oh, yeah, we had 12 drivers get their license in 3 weeks.
And we were at how many short? So that, I guess that filled the gap.
That's
So
filled the
we
gap.
started school
Mhm.
full,
No,
too short.
well, we started school with enough drivers. We had one driver that went through that training. She lasted like 4 hours and she decided it wasn't for her.
Sure.
But then we lost another driver that was, went out for medical reasons. But we had everything covered day one.
How'd that training go? Elaborate on
Miss Morris, actually, she was scheduling it for me, but all the trainers were very, very helpful. We had actually 5 trainers here, not at all at one time, but two each week for 3 weeks.
Instead of one trainer
Mhm.
every 5, 6.
Mhm. And I talked to Fred Gardner. We did hire a new trainer, but of course, it's gonna take a few months to get them up and running. So hopefully he'll be ready by November or something like that.
All right, Mr. Jenkins had a question. Thank you for your patience.
All right, 2 quick questions.
Uh-huh.
A while back, we were on a propane thing. Are we off the propane train in reference to buses? I missed one meeting because I was sick. And then the other question is, can you give me an update on mechanics in the garage, your staff,
Okay.
vacancy, stuff over there?
So right now we have 5 propane buses. They're running routes every day. No issue whatsoever. We just changed over from Thompson Gas to Sharp Energy. And it's been great. Had no issues whatsoever. Mechanics, we are still down mechanics. We've got one that's going to go out for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks for shoulder surgery. We have another one that's going to be out for 3 weeks on eye surgery. So if you see the shop open up on Saturdays, it's our mechanics working. I'm going to offer all the mechanics that left to work on Saturday to get stuff caught up. But we are hiring. I've got 3 on their way from a staffing agency out of Wilson that's coming in here. One's supposed to start on September 2nd, and the other one's the 8th.
Can you just give us an update like you have on the bus drivers? Just give us an update on that next month at the committee meeting.
Yep.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? If not, I'd like to take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
This time, does anybody else have any other comments? Like to make committee meeting? Now I entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion by Mr. Bennett, second by Mr. Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.